Every quarter, the Australian Financial Review conducts a survey of business economists in Australia. 20-some economists always reply, and they asked me 9 questions in addition to asking for my predictions for the next couple of years. Well, I answered that question like a politician. I said, our cash rate model has been varying in the range between 4.22 points and 4.44 points over recent months. That is to say, our model is varying randomly around the actual cash rate of 435 basis points. We expect that the Fed will cut rates either at the meeting of the 6th and 7th of November this year or its December meeting of 17 to 18 December. We don't believe that this cut in rates by the Fed will provoke any movement by the RBA. We expect the RBA to cut rates by 25 basis points in their meeting of June 2025. They should continue to cut rates until the end of 2026. The degree that the cash rate is above core inflation, that is the real rate. If I look at this variation in the real rate in the data going back to the beginning of the century in January 2000, what I find is for the 10 years we've just been through, or the period back to the financial crisis, rates have been pretty close, or the real rate, or the real cash rate in Australia has been pretty close to zero. And the reason for that was there was a lot of quantitative easing during that period, keeping rates down to as low as possible. But if you look at the earlier part, the first 10 years of this century, real rates are varying around about 2%, or maybe a touch higher. So if I get the average of the full period since January 2000, we think the real neutral rate is between 75 basis points and 100 basis points, and that means that when the cash rate gets to its bottom, and when it bottoms out, it should be between 3.25% and 3.5%. My response to that was that the real issue here is what the change in the demand for labour does during that period. We think the combination of this high level of migration together with natural increase will lead to unemployment going up to the mid 4% level in 2025. So that means that unemployment has to go up at least another 0.5% between now and the middle of next year. We think that various federal and state measures should stabilise consumer demand rather than make it rise. This means that it will slow the decline in inflation rather than increase inflation. This increases the stickiness of inflation, and is why we'll have to wait until the middle of 2025 before the RBA can provide us with any rate cuts. Well, how do you answer a question like that? What I said was that the fact that the Federal Treasury is aiming for a budget deficit of around about 1% of GDP in 24-25 no doubt provides a more difficult balancing act for the RBA. A balanced budget for 24-25 would have been much better. The trade-off is that it will now take much longer to cut rates than it would have been the case with a balanced budget. The Reserve Bank of India does already have an inflation target of 4%. That was put in place by its governor, Raghu Rajan. And Raghu Rajan previously was the chief economist of the IMF, who forecast the financial crisis. One of very few people to actually do so. So it's appropriate. That inflation target of 4% is appropriate for a rapidly developing economy. However, we don't believe or expect that any banks in the developed world will adopt this higher target. We don't expect insolvencies to worsen. However, we do expect a continued steady rise in unemployment above the level of 4%. It's very interesting that the ANZ job ads data, which was released only a day ago, suggests that as job ads are falling, those falling job ads indicate that probably we're going to get a rise in unemployment next year to between 4.6 and 5.2%, which is the area we've previously shown is that unemployment has to rise to at least that range to get inflation down to the RBA's target of 2.5%. So unemployment is going to keep rising, we think, right through to the middle of next year, maybe to the end of next year, but that provides us provides the RBA with the opportunity to bring inflation down to its target.